Welcome to the Well-Rounded Grappler. I am your host, Coach Stanley. These episodes are dedicated to all my wrestlers, past, present, and future, as well as anyone that has helped me along the way. My hope is to give inspiration or motivation to anyone on their own grappling journey. On the Well-Rounded Grappler, we will be talking with various individuals from the grappling world, from coaches to competitors in wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, and sambo. I hope you enjoy. Thank you for listening. Welcome to this new episode of the Well-Rounded Grappler. I'm very excited. I was able to interview Coach Justin Harty, a South Dakota native that first came to North Carolina to wrestle for the UNC Tar Heels, where he was a four-time Division I All-American and a four-time ACC undefeated champion. He started coaching in North Carolina after his college career at Northern Guilford High School. Previously, they had never won a state title, and within 3 years, Coach Harty was able to lead them to their first state title. He currently is the women's and men's coach at Greensboro College in Greensboro, North Carolina, and he is a motivator. I was motivated talking to him, and I know that you're going to be very motivated from hearing this awesome interview with Coach Justin Harty. Hey, Coach Harty. Thank you so much for giving me your time and allowing me to interview you today. Go ahead and start out by introducing yourself a little bit.
Sure. Coach Justin Harty, current head wrestling coach at Greensboro College here in Greensboro, North Carolina. Before that, I was head wrestling coach at Northern Guilford High School in Greensboro as well. Been in wrestling for over 40 plus years, and I grew up in the town of Lee, South Dakota, which is just over 1,800 people. But I got a full ride wrestling scholarship to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Wrestled for Bill Lamb, had a great college career, and since graduating college, really been a part of wrestling and stayed a part of the sport. Really, as I'll kind of talk to a little bit, I'd love to give back, and this sport's given so much to me. I always want to get back to it and help the next step, if you will.
Awesome. So like we talked a little bit before, this is the Well-Rounded Grappler. I'm pretty much dedicating all these interviews to any of my wrestlers, past, present, and future, to kind of get them motivated about the sport. But this is going to be not only about wrestling, but me being a judo black belt and involved in jiu-jitsu and sambo and things like that. Grappling as a whole is more than just wrestling, but I think wrestling probably is the strongest base as far as technique-wise, and obviously it's impacted the UFC really well, and all the champions that come out of there have a wrestling background most of the time. So how were you introduced to the sport of wrestling in the beginning?
Well, I grew up in Lead, South Dakota, Lead Deadwood, South Dakota, which is in the Black Hills. From a geographical standpoint, think Mount Rushmore. Only my hometown is about 45 minutes from Mount Rushmore. We live in a high elevation, a mile above sea level. Winters can be pretty harsh there. Anytime you can find an indoor activity to do over the winter months, it can snow. It can start snowing in September and snow all the way into May. So, wrestling we had a very strong AU club scene in my hometown, and a lot of towns in South Dakota and the Midwest have very strong club teams. And I have an older brother named Jason, and he started wrestling. And for the first year, I didn't even wrestle. I just kind of tagged along and just kind of watched and played around. But then I said, hey, I think I want to do this. And, I started in and had success right at the beginning, and started in the first year out. I won AAU state championship in South Dakota, and then kind of started from there. So I kind of started through a club program. The coaches that are still part of that program, pretty phenomenal, and they're still giving back to kids even today, and that's been a long time ago. So it's pretty awesome to see Coach Dennis Barrett and Coach Burleson and some of the guys that had started that program are still we were just back there this summer in South Dakota. My boys wrestled in a wrestling tournament called the Outlaw Square Showdown down in Haywood, South Dakota, an outside tournament. And all of those guys are still there helping with youth sports. It's awesome to see, and those are the folks that get folks started teaching the fundamentals. That's where the real work is being done. By the time they get to high school and sometimes college, there's been a lot of people that's contributed to their success, and that's no different about my story.
And what age was that you started wrestling?
I started when I was 7 years old. Wrestling, I do believe, and been such an amazing, has created an amazing stamp on my life. It's created from a very young age. It gave me something that I could adapt to, something I could work towards. I started creating goals at a very young age. I knew what I wanted to go accomplish, and then I had some great success with it. So it built confidence. It built, activity in a young person. It built, confidence and, self-esteem. I mean, there's just so many really important factors at the very start of my wrestling career. But as I got more and as I grew and I started developing, once you accomplish goals, a really big thing is to make more goals and, get bigger, place bigger goals and set them out there to go after. And, and I started that, wrestling actually started that in me, of thinking about, hey, what do I want to do? Okay, so let me throw a goal out there and then I'll work towards it. So my philosophy about this sport and how it's influenced me is it's not only influenced how I carry myself, but also there's so many great people in the sport that have influenced me from starting wrestling at 7 until now. I'm in the later years of my life here, and now I'm part of a college program. But Coach Lamb and just all the coaches and people, this sport is chock full of just really good people, and we're a family. If you think about it, I mean, we are. Wrestling has created a family away from my own family. You got blood family, and then you got wrestling family. And this sport of wrestling is really kind of there's a certain respect. If you wrestle, there's a respect there that what you do is not the easiest of sports to do. And when you do it, it's kind of a small world, if you will. So influencing, the sport has influenced me in so many awesome ways. It's allowed me to get a college education. I'm the first in my family still to get a college education at a 4-year degree in college, and wrestling afforded that to me. I grew up in a very humble household. I always had enough to eat, enough clothes on my back, and a roof over my head, but not always had money to do all the things and travel and have all the things we wanted, but we had what we needed. I knew I wanted something bigger. I knew I wanted to, go to college, get education, and, if I was going to change my family tree, I've got 5 children myself. My 5 children will go to college, and wrestling has allowed me an avenue and a way to get, from a small town in Leeds, South Dakota to, University of North Carolina and Chapel Hill. Not everybody can do that, but wrestling has been such an impactful, everything. If you look at what I've got in my life, all the connectors are from wrestling. Almost every single thing has come from the sport of wrestling, either directly or indirectly, based on the sport itself. So I have everything to be thankful for, all the people that have influenced me, as well as what the sport has given me. And if people just keep at it, this sport can do and open a tremendous amount of doors for you, not only personally and skill set wise, but also, academically and potentially college and your job after, and then the things that you're involved in after that. So it's made an huge impact on my life.
That sounds like it. Thank you so much for sharing that. What I kind of try to promote to a lot of my wrestlers over the years of coaching is the things that you talk about, that there's so much more outside of the mat that you get from this sport, and it really helps change people, and I'm a big believer in that. Back to the goal setting. I'm all the time listening to podcasts, reading books, watching videos, talking to people, and lately I saw this goal setting interview, and the person that was talking said there shouldn't be anything as an unrealistic goal. Everybody talks about, well, make your goals realistic, but his point was, let's say that it could be involved in wrestling. I want to be an Olympic champion. right?
Yep.
A young kid says that. And they go along the journey, and let's say maybe they don't reach that goal, but if they didn't have such of a high goal, they would have never accomplished everything kind of before that.
Yeah.
He was saying that if you kind of just set small goals, those are fine, but you should always shoot for something higher, and then in the end you'll be happier that you chased that ultimate goal, that Olympic championship, and maybe you never got it, but so many things along the way that you would have set as a low goal, you easily accomplished that. What's your thoughts on that?
I love talking about goals. I really think that without goals, I think it's really hard for people to focus on what's most important. And I take goal setting one step further. I mean, a lot of people have goals rumbling around in their head, but they don't have to write them down. What happens with that is that, goals have a way of, you gotta say, I want to do this, and then life kind of happens, and before you know it, you set a couple more goals, and, a month or 2 months or even a year has passed, and you go back and like, wow, I never even got very far on that goal. It's because it's hard to, if you got too many things going on, it's hard to dedicate time and attention to the very thing that you want to get done. So I'm really big in the Z-winning mindset, SMART goals. I think you have to make goals very specific. I think you have to make sure you understand what you have to measure in them. I think you have to make them attainable. How are you going to go about those measurements? You do, in a way, have to make them realistic, but also know that there's a timetable. All goals to God. You don't have an open, the time to get them done is not forever, so you have to create some urgency. So I'll back up and go back through a couple of those things. So I'm big on having all my athletes, both myself, I did this for me personally, before I went to college at UNC Chapel Hill, or before I was even being recruited. I said, hey, I want to wrestle Division I. I want to be a national champion. I want to be a 4-time All-American. I wanted to be a 4-time conference champion. I wanted to be an academic All-American, and I wanted to win a team. I wanted to be part of a great team. I wanted to do all those things. Well, I had all those things written down, and I was when my feet hit the floor every morning, I was of clear mind and clear purpose of what I was going, what I was actually going to do, and what I was running after. My personal story is, I've got a faith, and I've never drank, I've never used drugs, I've never had a single drop of alcohol in my life, and I knew those things for my goals were going to help me achieve those goals. What I had set out to do was big, right? And for where I was in little town Leeds, South Dakota, a lot of people are like, you can't do that. There's no way you'll be able to go do that. Well, I just fueled the fire. And I'm like, I will do that. That's what I'm going to work towards. So kind of going back to you got to have big, audacious goals. You got to set things out there that you can really run after. Now, if I set a goal like, right now in my life, I want to be at NASA, I want to go to the moon. That's probably not really realistic, right? I mean, that's something that's way out of, it's just off the realm, and maybe something I'm thinking I want, but it's not a very realistic goal. The goals I set when I was in high school, I was already, working towards them. I was already, multiple time state champion in South Dakota. I ended up winning 3 state titles. I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew I had the ability, and I knew I wanted to work towards those things. So, and I will tell you the power of setting goals and writing them down versus just thinking them or having them in their head. It's a big difference between writing something down and making it concrete. I put those goals on my refrigerator. I put them in my bathroom. I put them in my locker at school. I put them in my glove department of my truck when I had in college, in my car. I put them everywhere that I could, most importantly in my bedroom and on my ceiling. And so whenever I woke up or wherever I went to bed, the last thought was, I'm going to do that one day. I watched the NCAA finals and the big blue mat elevator. I was like, I'm going to wrestle on that mat one day, right? And I visualized myself being there, and I worked towards it. And when I got up and somebody said, hey, you want to go to a party this week? I was like, no, thank you. I'm training this week. I mean, I knew what I wanted to do, and I let nothing get in my way of that. Now looking back on what I set out to do and what I wanted to do, right, there's only one thing on that goal, all those goals that I had in high school. There's only one thing on that entire list that I didn't accomplish at UNC Chapel Hill. I was a 4-time All-American. I was in the finals. I lost 3-2 in the finals against kids that I beat before. I was undefeated against 4. I was a 4-time undefeated ACC champion. Never lost in the ACC. Was a 4-time academic All-American. Grades were important. I ended up with a 3.56 GPA in college with a double major in psychology and business communication. And I was on 4 ACC championship teams, and we placed 6th in the country in 1994, which those were huge, right? I'm still, right now it's going to be overtaken, but I'm still right now the only, 4-time ACC champion, 4-time academic All-American, and 4-time All-American at the college at UNC Chapel Hill. And that's in the history of wrestling. So that's a huge, huge thing. But that all started from goals, right? So goals are really, really important. You have to understand that you've got to know where you're going before you can get there. And I've used that story for my whole coaching career, right? Like when I went to Northern Guilford College, Northern Guilford High School, for example, and I'm doing that now, and I'm creating a winning culture. You have to create a winning culture around uniting a group who all has the same goals and working towards them. And we had to start the belief that you can do something before you can you got to believe you can be a state champion before you actually become a state champion. That is absolutely fact, right? You can't walk up to the state tournament and say, today I want to be a state champion, and they just hand it to you. It doesn't work that way. You got to believe and train and know you're working towards something, and that's a worthwhile goal. And, there's never, Keith Gagne is a great example of that, right? We never had a state champion at Northern Guilford High School before, right? And he's just like, dude, that's my goal. That's what I want to be. I want to be an undefeated high school state champion, right? And his senior year, he accomplished that. He was 64-0 on his way to his first title. He was a 3-time finalist and 1-time champion. And then that same year, we won our state championship title. And it's because we actually, for years when I first got there in 2017, I said, guys, we're going to be a conference championship team. We're going to be a state championship team, and we're going to win state titles here. That's what this school is going to be about. We hadn't done any of those things before. Right? And then people looked at me and thought I was absolutely crazy. I was like, but this is what we're doing. This is what we're training for. So when you train harder than you've ever trained before, you know why we're doing it. We've got these goals that we are going to accomplish as a team, but we all have to work hard. We all have to be on the same page. I had those goals written on the restroom in Northern Guilford High School. There's these big, tall glass windows in the restroom. I had written all those goals out all over the windows and told them exactly what we were going to do. And those goals are still hanging up there today. We're a championship level team, and we're going to continue to be a championship level team. It's the expectation that you create. We write them down, and everybody starts believing in it. Even if they didn't believe in it before, when people start believing in something, and you get a whole bunch of people believing in the same thing, and they're all working towards one goal and one program and one motion, and you're all aligned to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, some really powerful things can happen, and you can do a lot of things that were unthought of at one time. You can do, and I'm a big believer that all starts, Coach, in goal setting. And that goal setting is the start of the process of a winning culture, because you're starting to show people that this is where we want to go. One thing I've learned is that a lot of people don't know how to write goals out. They've never done it before, and you don't know what you don't know. So I'm a big believer. I've got some SMART goal tracker, paper trackers that I've shared those with everybody I've ever coached. I'm working that out. Right? Matter of fact, right now, next couple of weeks with my Greensboro College guys, I will be sitting down, and instead of one of our wrestling practices, we'll have a SMART goal practice where we'll sit down and we'll have every one of our wrestlers write out their SMART goals for the year. What do they want to do? What do they want to accomplish? And they're going to make copies, and they put them up all over their locker room and everywhere else. So goals are absolutely 100%, and not just thought about, but they need to be written down, and they do have a timetable. Like you can't write, I want to be a state championship in high school and just have it unended. You got to know and be specific. I want to be a 145-pound state champion in the state of North Carolina at 145 pounds, and that tournament happens on the 17th of February in 2023. That's a specific goal. And you only have 1 year to accomplish that goal. And if you're a senior, that's all you're going to ever get in your entire life. So the timetable to reach some goals do expire because they're time-based and they don't last forever. That's why I tell everybody to say, number one, when you have your goal sheets and you're writing goals, you need to have two other little things on your paper somewhere. Number one, what is your why? Why are you doing it? Why are you going to put the work in? And then number two, in big block letters, I actually have everybody write down urgency. You got to have urgency. You got to make sure you know what you're trying to do, clear-minded of the path to get there, and then you got to have urgency every single day. When a day passes, that's the day you didn't get work in if you didn't go to work. So you got to have work in, and you got to make sure that you have some urgency towards your goals. So goals are 100% absolutely crucial to the success of most people out there doing great things.
I love it, Coach. That's a lot of great things. Some things that I already plan on implementing this next season. And I remember the exact same conversation that we had up at the camp in Greensboro. That was a great camp, by the way. Thank you for putting that on what was it called?
It was the Marines leadership camp.
You know, you coming from South Dakota, coming here, wrestling for UNC, starting out your coaching career at Boston College, and then you went back up to UNC again. Why go down not go down a level, but why change from college to high school? What was the purpose of that, and kind of how did you end up in Northern Guilford?
Yeah, it really has to do with, when I graduated UNC Chapel Hill, I had a degree in psychology and business communications. I ended up working for DeWalt Tools, and I was with them for a long time, over 20 years. And I traveled. I graduated in 97. I moved to Charlotte with DeWalt, and I was working out with, still going back and being a volunteer assistant with UNC Chapel Hill. Then I moved to Nashville, Tennessee for a couple of years and worked out with some high school programs there, and then moved to Boston. And I was in Boston for 2 or 3 years, and that's how I got started asking around, started trading, and that's how I kind of got the Boston College gig. And then 2003, I moved back to North Carolina. I would have loved to move back to Chapel Hill, but I had a job. I was actually training for the U.S. Open at that point in time, or wanting to kind of get back into it. So, but my job was in Charlotte, and I wanted to train at UNC Chapel Hill, so I chose Greensboro, not knowing everything else would unfold. But I chose Greensboro, and I was traveling up to Chapel Hill 2 or 3 times a week to train, and then I was driving to Charlotte. So it was a crazy kind of in the middle type of place, which got me to Greensboro. And then, I started having children in 2018, but I traveled a lot for my work. I ran our NASCAR program for all the event and mobile marketing for DeWalt Power Tools. So managed Matt Kenseth and all of our event mobile teams and tours across the country, which was a really big job. I was gone over 38 weeks a year doing that. 2009, 2010, we were bought by Stanley. They had their own person, so I had to take another job within the company. And then that's kind of when I started, I started my club in 2015, my youth wrestling club, which I still own today. And then I actually said, hey, the high school job, when I got to Greensboro, for example, I'll back up a second, UNCG still had Division I wrestling in 2000 when I moved to Greensboro, so I was training with them as well. But that program went away, if you remember. So when that program went away in Greensboro, I was kind of looking for a place to kind of give back, and so I started a club. I've got 5 children. I've got 4 boys and a girl. I've got it right now. Currently, I've got a 10, 12, and 14-year-olds, and they're heavy into wrestling. So, and I started then when they were 7. That's one of the reasons why I started my own wrestling club. I was like, I don't care if it's just my 3 boys at the time and myself. We're going to go do this as a family. So I started the club and we were ironically practicing at Greensboro College back in 2015, 2016, but they actually were closing off their program for a youth program. So I went back. Was asking the people around town, hey, do you know of anybody that I could use their wrestling room for my youth club? So, and that's when I was approached about, the coach at Northern Guilford just left. I never saw myself as a high school coach, to be honest with you, Coach. I always saw myself coaching college or above, but I was like, you know what, this will work. I'm gonna give this a whirl. I talked to Coach Lamb, who I give a lot of credit to in my life for a lot of things, and he was my coach in college at UNC Chapel Hill and one of the most successful coaches we have in this state ever. He said, I think that'd be a great opportunity for you. So I dug in 2017 and was there for 5 years before I was actually getting really excited to, continue doing that. We're still building this year. We're going to be, in high school you go through cycles as you have good senior classes and you cycle through and you build. And this year coming up is going to be one of our best ever. So I was really excited, but the opportunity for Greensboro College came open unexpectedly, and I was, put my hat in it, ring the hat, and it's in my hometown, and something I wanted to do is to be a, division NCAA coach, and so I took that opportunity. But so Greensboro was kind of in the between two things I was trying to do at the time. That's where I landed in Greensboro, and I've been here since 2013, and really enjoyed my time coaching high school. I loved it. I absolutely kind of just dug into it, and really had a great coaching staff. Matthew Benfield and Billy Gagne and a couple other coaches that have just been phenomenal team. A team of coaches to help me do that. But the Greensboro College opportunity has presented itself, and I've been doing that as of April 1st. Really excited about our upcoming season, a lot to do. But, wrestling is, again, going back to your earlier question about, hey, what has it done for you? I mean, it's opened so many great doors, and I'm just so grateful and so thankful for the opportunity to coach at Northern Guilford. Brian Thomas is the athletic director out there. We won a state championship. We won 3-4 conference titles in a row. We had a lot of great success, and they're going to continue that success. My 3 sons will end up wrestling through there as well, so I'm excited about that, and I'll continue to support Northern Guilford. But now I'm actually, at Greensboro College. We're the only college within an hour, of Greensboro, and we're really wanting to open up an opportunity that we can actually be a place where, young people can actually have a great opportunity to get a great education in Greensboro College, but also wrestle on a team that we are going to build. We're excited about our future and excited about what we're going to do, and really wanted to create some great relationship with coaches in our state to send us some great young men and women. And I'm building not only a men's program, but I built a women's program there too. So I'm really excited about that opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. Sun Valley, where I coach, one of the graduates just finished his college career up at Greensboro, Joel Carnegie.
I know Joe. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love Joe. Joe's a great guy. Had a really a solid career, and yeah, we want more Joels, right? We want more guys that want to come in and have fun and compete and have a lot of too. But yeah, Joel is great.
Yeah.
Joe High. So
I sure will. He wasn't one of my wrestlers, but I worked with his mom and made a connection with him a little bit. He came and helped out. I think it was maybe over his Thanksgiving break. Came out, showed up at Billy Gunfield, and hey, I'm Joel, and I didn't even put it together at the time that that's who it was, but and he wants to give back as well. Soon here in the future, probably next season when he gets a little bit more time, he's going to start popping in. He's already saying, hey, I want to give back. Hey, I want to come back to the program. And that's great. So back to Northern Guilford, at least for now, I'm a transplant here. I've only lived in North Carolina for a year. I'm from Illinois. So I don't know the history of most the high school programs, especially around here. But I've heard good things and really strong. I don't know, just the teams that come out of Guilford are real strong. And
sure,
was that something that you brought about, or was that a tradition that the county kind of had previously to you coming there?
That certainly that reputation had been there a lot way before me. Coach Burr over at Northwest High School, which is only 3 miles away from us, or 5 miles away from us. They've won state championships, both individual and I believe team as well, and had multiple state champions. So the teams have been here for a long time. Northern Guilford had no really history of wrestling before I'd gotten there. Built the program, started building the program, had a great freshman class to work with essentially, and then just followed that group in and obviously learned my lessons and about getting, making sure that your middle school program and your elementary school programs, that's your feeder programs, you got to make sure you put your arms around those programs and get those kids into clubs and get them working so that they understand your system And when they come up in, you don't have to reteach them. They already know your system. So you really need to give back and at your high school, in my opinion, give back your high school program and youngsters, give back and go build those middle school kids up. Invite them to your events. Make them VIPs at your home duels. Put your arm around them. Go help them. Go help the elementary schools that are going to be middle schoolers, and do whatever you can do, because that essentially becomes your feeder program for your high schools. If you do not do that and you neglect the middle schools and elementary schools that feed into your high schools, I would have to say that I would challenge that you're going to have a tough time building a championship program. But since we've done that, and we started doing that right away, my first couple of years, the first year, I didn't have enough time to do that, and we were losing rising eighth graders weren't coming out for wrestling. And we knew we had to change that. So when I added some additional assistant coaches, we started putting several things implementing in. And one of those things was, hey, invite the middle school. Let's go down. Let's take some high schoolers and let's go down and work with the middle schoolers weekly or every other week. Let's go make sure they're coming to whole events. Invite the whole team up. And then also with the elementary schools that feed into it, invite them to a club. Get them working, because essentially those will be your folks that you get. And so that's, I think, a very important piece of the puzzle. And of the programs that you are talking about that are good in the Guilford counties, they all have very successful systems like that. They have a successful club that they've got, or they own, or they have access to, or they go to. They actually focus on the elementary and middle school programs that feed into them, as well as they actually are very good at picking up the kids that they do get transfers in, pull people from the football. Coach Burr, I think, is a strength and conditioning coach, so he's actually identified people early that he could pull into, the program. So those guys have had a lot of success there, and, they are formidable. I mean, they're a formidable foe, and I think this year Northern Guilford's going to have another run. We just moved from 3A. Last year we moved to 4A, so they moved us up. Northern Guilford right now is the smallest school in the 4A realm. They put us in the 4A because I guess they thought we needed more competition. So we don't shy from anybody. We'll wrestle wherever we wrestle whoever they put us in front of. So that's an exciting thing. So.
No, I 100% agree that it should be from the top down, and kids that are coming in at the elementary level are already starting to learn the system. I personally, being the head coach at Sun Valley, this is only my first year there, I ran all of the middle school off-season stuff, ran all the practices myself, and then revitalized the youth as well for 5 weeks. I had a gentleman named Greg Day that approached me about it, saying, hey, do you have a youth program? And if not, would you like to start one and me run it? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Yes, I definitely want you to do that. So we had that going this year as well. Previously, there was a youth program, but it's probably been 4 or 5 years since that had been going on. And the kids that did it want to continue to do it, and so we'll probably end up doing something this winter as well. So I mean, I'm trying to build it just like you're saying from the top down, so that I get kids, year after year that are coming up and they already know me and kind of know the system and things like that.
Yep, yes, sir.
So let's go back to the first year at Northern Guilford. You said it was a lot of freshmen in that. Roughly, how many numbers did you have? Kind of what was the experience level, and then how much of a growth did you see in that class that first year, and what was the success like that first year?
Yeah, so 2017 was my first year. 2017, 2018, and we. So I'm a big proponent that we actually have 4 principles we work on. Number 1, be thankful for what you have. Number 2, be aggressive or relentless at all times. Number 3, no fear of losing or making mistakes. Number 4, don't quit something you start. That's from the Z-Winning Mindset, which I'm a current Z-Winning Mindset coach, and I've been working with that program for a lot of years, and it's very, very powerful. Because when you're starting, one of the things you have to do with a group that's never been successful before is you got to put those goals down that we talked about, and you got to make sure that they understand that, hey, this is doable. but it's not going to be given to us. We got to work towards it. So number one, you have to create culture. You have to create a winning culture immediately. You have to let them know. We're not waiting 7 years. We're not waiting 5 years to win. We're winning right now. And we're winning with you believing that you can win. So I just immediately started talking about what we can do and what we're going to do. And I said, we're going to start working towards it. So one of those things that, I think is very important is, even if the kids are young, is that they have to know that they can win. They have to know that I'm going to teach you the fundamentals. I'm going to teach you the fundamentals of this sport. And then you need to work on right now your belief and your things that you do, that you can do away from the wrestling room. When you're out of here, you got to believe in visualization. You got to understand all the things you got to do to be successful outside of this wrestling room. Right? While you're in this wrestling room, we're working on what we need to work on. But outside of this wrestling room, there's a lot of things that impact whether you're going to be successful or not. Right? And I was really big on centers of influence. Who you spend the time with is either going to make you or break you. Right? You got to surround yourself with positive people, places, thoughts, and things. That's a huge, huge factor, right, of being successful. Right? Is surround yourself with positive people, places, thoughts, and things. People that are going to uplift, build you up, and motivate you. Those, finding people that are like-minded. I told them if we're going to do this, it's going to require you as a group. We need some leaders. We need some leaders to step up. We're going to work hard. And when we go out and we compete, we're going to compete we're going to be the most aggressive and relentless people. That's going to be our brand. We are going to create that brand of wrestling. And I did. That's what from day one, I demanded that. I demanded that from day one. And kids buy into that. Kids will buy into that. And I told them, I was like, our brand of wrestling, nobody may have heard of Northern Guilford as of in our past, but they're going to hear from us moving forward. All right, and that starts day one, very first practice. I wrote those goals on the walls and they're on their windows, and I told them this is what we're going to be. And I had some folks snicker in, and folks were like, what is this guy on, right? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm on knowing how to win. That's what I'm on. I was like, I've got a history of it. I've got, the best predictor of future results is past results. So I know what I'm talking about. You guys need to believe in it. All right, and let's do this thing. And I had a group. I had that freshman, sophomore group, and I had some good upperclassmen. And then our first numbers, I think that first year we were like 16, 17 people. But when I left, I think I had 35, 36. But that was building over the years, right? Building those other programs we talked about. And this year, I've been working with them all summer. There's going to be 8 or 9 freshmen coming into that program, and all of them can contribute. That's what you want, right? You combine that with the senior class. That there's 5 people in that senior class that has several seasons with 50+ wins, right? Now you're building every year and not just 1 year. Now you're building something that you're kind of continuing to be successful. But that obviously wasn't that first year. But I will tell you that first year, we won our conference right away. We won the tournament, but we lost one duel that cost us, I think, the duels championship. But then we won it every year else the year that we were there. But we won tournaments we weren't supposed to win. We went out to the Smoky Mountain Grappler out in Asheville. We were the first team as an inaugural team. There was 28 teams, 29 teams there. We went out there and we won that. We had 5 champions and we won that. And people looked at us like, what just happened in Northern Guilford? It wasn't just me. Obviously what I was doing was a part of it, but something happens when young kids believe. And when they start believing, anything can happen. And I told them from the get-go, I was like, we're not going to wait till the end of the season to win. We're going to start doing it right now. Because I'm going to show you the fundamentals. You work the fundamentals, and you take an aggressive and relentless attack, applying pressure from start to finish approach and brand of wrestling. And I will have you in the best shape of, and that's the other thing I prided myself on, is we were in state championship level form because of our preseason practices when the season started in November. So when we hit those early tournaments, when everybody else is just trying to get their breath, we could wrestle 5 matches in a day already. We were ready to go and not get tired. And we kept that up. And that was our other secret of success, if you will. We were always the best in shape team. And if somebody else was in great shape and ready to go, we love those battles. That's what you want. You want battles. You want great competition. And that's what we to test yourself. So we were always in great shape. I stepped in there with, I didn't have, we barely had enough enough kids to fill out a team that first year. And then we kind of kept adding to it, and that freshman class ended up being a phenomenal class in 2020. They were seniors, and it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome.
I like hearing things like that, especially, I wouldn't call it an underdog story, but in a way it was, right? Nobody really knew Northern Guilford, and then all of a sudden you guys start having success. I mean, I always root for the underdogs.
Yeah, we were definitely that. Ironically, the year we won the state championship, we weren't even in the discussion before the tournament as even an option to do it. And the team we beat actually had 8 state placers, and we only had 2 state placers, and we had no business beating them in the state finals on the dual championship. But that's why you wrestle. And that day we were on, and we beat them. 2 weeks later, they won the individual state championship by a mile, and had 8. I think they had 8 state placers out of 14 spots. So they were a phenomenal team. Our stand that day, we were better. And that's all you got to do is be better on the day. As
long as it's your day, you can easily win that tournament, easily win that match. So let's talk about the approach that you use with the kids. Would it be more on nothing but positive? Would it be more accountability? What are you focusing on when you're talking to them and things like that to help them kind of buy in and believe in themselves?
Well, number one is you got to show up to get better. So accountability definitely played a part. Like, you're on this team, we expect you to be at practice. If there's something that's going on, then with academics, I definitely have a priority on academics, because if they don't have grades, they can't wrestle. So we always say, if you need extra time on classes, go do that, and we'll make it up, right? But they definitely have accountability. I just go back, Coach, on the belief. I think, having them all write goals out, having them write them down and turn them into me. I asked for goals. I asked on Monday for goals on Friday. And if you didn't turn your goals in on Friday, you didn't wrestle in the room until you turned in your goals, right? Very simple requests. These are not rocket science. These are not figuring out going to the moon requests. It's just writing down a goal and turning it into coach. And if you didn't do it, then you sit out until you bring it, right? And so we just made some very simple things like that. And then the importance of, hey, I'm not having you write out goals for my benefit. It's for your benefit, for the betterment of the team. So do what you need to do, and make sure that you are coming to practice with a phenomenal work ethic. And if you don't have a work ethic or don't know how to do it, I'll teach you. But make sure you bring a willingness to learn and a championship level positive attitude. If you can bring me a positive attitude and a willingness to learn and a willingness to work at whatever we go after, we can teach you the skills. We can teach you the actual technique. We can teach you the fundamentals of sport. But at the end of the day, your heart and what kind of fire burns within you, that's totally up to you. And we had some kids, I can't tell you that I kept every kid that came out. Would like to tell you that, but I didn't. And this sport's not for everybody. But the folks that came out, the folks that actually said, yes, I buy into this, and I know where we're going, Coach. And I also really worked hard to make sure these kids understood that I wasn't there just to get wins in the column. I was there to help them grow and get better, and to help them for their next level in college or work. I try to make really examples of, when I tell you to be at practice at 4:45, doesn't mean 5 o'clock. Your boss at work, if he tells you you're going to need to be at work at 4:45, he's not going to accept you showing up at 5:05, or you're not going to have that job very long. So your choices that you make have consequences, or consequences if it's bad, or good things if it's good. So really kind of just let them know I really cared about them. I opened up my phone if they needed to talk outside of class or after class or after practice. I was a non-faculty coach. So I worked full time in corporate business, so I was a non-faculty coach. But I opened up my phone if you need to talk to me. Do we need? I am helping you. I want to problem solve. Whatever you got problems, let's work on them together, right? winning through teamwork was a big concept. I told make sure that everybody knew, make sure that your workout partner knows how much you care about them, because you're not going to be anywhere that you think you want to get to without a good workout partner. Give them a hug. Tell them thank you. So, say, I appreciate you being here every day. Let's work hard together. And understanding that you cannot be successful in this sport without the village around you, a good workout partner, a good team, good coaches, good positive influences around you. Very few people can do that alone. Matter of fact, I would say most successful people in our sport would tell you, or if you got them alone, would say, man, there's been a lot of people that's impacted my journey here that's helped me get to this spot. I don't think I've ever seen or heard an interview to say, yeah, I'm the only person that I've only relied on to get to this point. There are so many people, and you got to be thankful for all those people along the way. To build a championship team, there's so much involved to it, and I would tell you that the buy-in is important. I would rather have a great human being on this team than the person that thinks he's great, but he's not kind to others, or not what we're looking for in the Nighthawks, right? In the Northern Guilford Nighthawks at that time. We're looking for great human beings. We actually talked about not only I did community service projects, right? Because I said, hey, you got a platform. We give back to people that are less fortunate. So we did that through my club. We did the Spartan Elite Wrestling Club, or Core Wrestling Club at that point in time. We gave back to the community and the angel trees and gifts to kids that didn't have any gifts for Christmas, or Thanksgiving baskets. We were giving 20 to 45 baskets away a year, right around Thanksgiving. We'd actually fundraise for the turkeys, and then we'd have everything else donated, right? We'd have a laundry basket. I did this in college when I was at college. That's brought that into my coaching period. Coaching philosophy was to, hey, not only are we going to work hard on the mat, man, we're going to be in this community and we're going to support people that don't have what we have, right? And be a help up in any way we possibly can. So trying to teach them that, not only do you want to take advantage of having a great opportunity to be successful on the mat and in school, but you have as wrestlers, you have a responsibility, in my opinion, to give back to the sport some way, somehow. Whether you're coming back to working out with a practice, or you're giving to others, or you're doing something great in the community, we want to teach that. And I reinforce that fundamental of giving back throughout my entire career.
Awesome. Yeah. Lots and lots of great stuff. What does mental toughness mean to you?
Well, mental toughness is, in my opinion, the thing that sometimes can make or great, is the difference factor. I can tell you that with being in a lot of championship level matches and All-American blood rounds and all the, high level, one of those, people are always like, hey, coach, do you have one of those stop signs? I was like, yes, I do. I won an under 20 U.S. Freestyle National Tournament when I was in college. So I've got one of those stop signs, and they're like, oh, wow, okay. What you think about that, though, is mental toughness, right? Having a tough mind to get through what other people can't get through. I tell my own sons, I have my own kids, that mental toughness and having a mind and a motor that will go from start to end, I was like, very few people can match that. And if you do find somebody that can match that, that's a glorious match. That's what you're wanting for, right? So if I can teach you to compete at an aggressive and relentless level, applying pressure at all times from start to finish, and you're not looking at the clock, you're not looking at anything but just to score, and you just take a continuous pressure position, constant attacking, constant pressure, relentless. You never giving up. You're coming at them, even if you're up. I always tell all my teams, even in one of my first days of practice in Northern Guilford back in 2017, I said, look, we're going to be known as pinners. The ultimate destination of this sport is the ultimate domination of your opponent is the pin. And we got our shares of pins. We made that from the very beginning. We're not going to be playing, we're not dancing around, trying to just put points on the point, put points to the board just to put points on the board. And if you attack them, great, while trying to pin them. But the ultimate domination of it is a pin. You not only get the most points for you get the most points for the team, you get the most points for a team title, you get most points for everything. And also, that's the domination of the sport. So letting them know the mentality of mental toughness is the thing that is the differentiator factor. When fundamentals or skills are the same, strength is the same, it's the person that actually can muster up the mental toughness to be the best in the end, both physically, spiritually, mentally, and mentally tough, will be the person that gets their hand raised at the end. And I would tell you that a lot of our young people, Coach, have no clue what mental toughness is. They don't know at what level. And I would equate that with aggressive and relentlessness. If you actually ask one of your your kids on your team what relentlessness is, a lot of people don't even understand what that is, right? When you can apply the pressure with mental toughness, with aggressive and relentlessness, and you're physically just bearing down on your opponent, and there's constant pressure, very few people can withstand that for the whole period, for the whole match. They might be able, I told my son just yesterday, we were working, you may have some people that might be able to withstand in the first 30 seconds, the first minute, maybe the first period even, maybe even the second period, maybe even the second period. But if you keep that constant pressure on them and you just keep coming at them, snapping their head down, snapping, shoot, snap, shoot, float around, get on them, and you're just pounding on them on top, and you're just constant pressure, putting the leg on pressure, and you keep at somebody like that, eventually most folks are like, they mentally break, all right? I was a psychology and business communication major at UNC Chapel Hill. I majored in psychology and business communication. Psychology is my thing. I knew from the fact of not only studying it, but also understanding the power of a powerful mind, that when you are tough and you believe you're tough, you can do more than you possibly can even imagine if you take that mindset into battle with you. And you could actually believe it, and then you can back it up. There were so many times that I was with a valiant warrior on the other side, and we were battling, and I loved it. Whenever I snapped somebody in the head and they actually snapped me right back, I smiled, because I was like, warriors like to battle, and I love to battle. But it always came a time in a match where I knew exactly the moment when I mentally broke them. And when I mentally broke them, it was over. I knew there was no coming back from it. But likewise, Coach, you know this. This is you see all the time in competition. When you get warriors and you're beating on them, and then you let up and they get hope, how tough are they to beat? And they think they have a chance. They can come back and be the toughest person you could ever try to beat. Because hope and belief is powerful. Team sports and individual sports, hope and belief is powerful. You match hope and belief with a mental toughness mind that actually will not break. Wow, that's a warrior right there, and that's somebody who's going to go way far in this thing. I get people to say, Coach, how do you develop mental toughness? Well, some of it has to do is you got to go beyond what you think you can go, and you got to test yourself with it. They're like, well, what does that mean? Well, that means when your body's talking to you, and your body's tired, and your body's hurting, and you let your body win, most of the time your quit factor happens a lot quicker in the equation. But when you understand that mental toughness means that you do not give in and you do not give up until you physically cannot go anymore. And I was like, I'm not talking about, they're like, what if you got injury? I'm not talking about, if you got an injury and you're hurt, then sit out, get well, and come back when you're ready. But if you are having some pain on your way, right, and your body's hurting, quite frankly, that is what your body does when it goes through training, is you're tearing down, lifting, you're tearing down muscle, you're building it back up, you're tearing down muscle. Your body's going to hurt, but you have to let you know that your mind controls the body. The mind will tell your body to go when your body's telling you can't go anymore. And what you tell your body to do, your body will do. And I'm reminded of these ultra marathoners or long distance runners. Have you ever heard about these guys?
Oh yeah, I'm a big follower of David Goggins.
Yeah, I was like, what mental toughness, man, must they have to be able to get their body? Their body's struggling. Their bodies are going through all kinds of things. But mentally, their mental toughness has to be at a level of unbelievable. Plus, anybody that's doing awesome things in sports, most of those folks, their mental toughness factor is at an all-time high. And you have to really understand that is what it's about. So, but mental toughness, I know it's a long-winded answer about that, but it is the difference maker when everything else is equal, mental toughness is the thing that'll, in the end, will get the job done and outlast your opponent and will be the deciding factor in most cases between two great warriors. Whoever's most mentally tough and has both physical, mental, all of that can outlast their opponent is the person that can actually make sure their mind can direct their body to get done what needs to get done, even when everything else is hurting. When your body's hurting, your lungs are hurting, but you can just mentally get yourself through those things and test yourself. So, in both of that, how to get better is you have to test yourself and you have to push yourself beyond what you think you can do. And what happens when you do that yourself, something opens up in your mind. You're like, well, I didn't think I could do that. And I pushed myself beyond this level. I made that. Well, let me do that again. And before you know, you're looking back, you're like, I've gone 10 levels. That in my own mind, when I first started out doing this, I didn't think I could do it. And then that just opens up the work. You can do anything you want to do, right? So it's huge. It's huge. I think it's a big thing that a lot of young athletes don't spend enough time working on. And if they did, their results would be greater than what they do have.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome answer. We focus so much on philosophy and things involving with the mind and overcoming adversity and things like that. But when it comes down to actual technique in the room, what are some important aspects that you like to cover? What's most important to you as far as technique-wise and things like that in the room?
Yeah, Coach, I have a very simple philosophy on that, to be honest with you. I'm more about fundamentals and teaching fundamentals. The problem with that is a lot of people don't want to work on fundamentals. They want to learn 1,000 moves. And I tell young folks all the time, and I tell my current team, fundamentals wins. Fundamental wins all the time. And when you attach fundamentals to different data, like we have data from all of our years at Northern Guilford and through this camera that takes pictures of all the matches, and it's Match Boss or something like that. And the data every year, it's almost 83% keeps coming up every year. It's never changed. 83% of all wins happened when our folks took the first takedown. 83%. So when you talk about what kind of technique do you do, you also have to match it with what are some things that absolutely have to be done. I actually train with something that I've been working on for years, and I'll share it today. It's called the power of 15 seconds, power of 15. In order to get a takedown in 15 seconds, you can't put your head, you can't lock up ear to ear and go forward and back and dance around things. You have to set up and you have to go, right? In order to get a takedown in 15 seconds, you have to set up, get an angle, take a shot, great shot, and finish. That's what we're trying to do. So in a minute's time, you should have 4 different scoring opportunities. Every 15 seconds, you need to be scoring one way or another. And you need to be training towards that. In 2 minutes, that's 8 scoring opportunities, so on and so forth. In a whole match, there are lots of scoring opportunities you ought to have, right? And if you combine that with the first takedown, your most important job in the match is to get a first takedown. It changes the match. It changes the mindset. You have a mental edge from the get-go. If you get the first takedown, does that mean you're automatically going to win the match? No, you still have to wrestle it out. But then you also are looking for the pin. Remember that. So you're matching technique and philosophies with what you want to get done on the mat. So when I tell folks when I'm working on it's very simple stuff. But you'd be amazed if you look at a lot of your tape, Coach. You'll start to really notice that a lot of the way they're wrestling, they're out of position. As people get tired, they come up out of their stance, and all fundamentals break down. I always tell people head up, butt down, elbows in, and work for position on inside ties. I'm a big inside tie guy, right? Why? Because it's control. Inside position, underhook. Taught that to Heath Gagne, right? And Heath Gagne actually just took that concept, and that's his go-to move. It's an underhook to an overthrow when you overthrow it to the back leg, you throw him over the top, and then you scoot down to that back leg and then finish from there, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But I'm a big underhook, over the top guy. Underhook, snap the head down, finish from a front headlock series, right? Underhook, positioning, feet, elbows in, head up, back him up, pull him up, knock the shoulder up, take a shot. Low signals, right? I'm a big philosophy on 2 to the left, 2 to the right, 2 straight on, 2 over the top. You got to master level those. You got to have something to the left side of his body, high crotch, high signal, something to the right side of his body, outside single. You can do a fireman's carry to that side. You can do a blast double, a thump over the top. You snap them and do a front headlock. But you got to have two things that you can do on both sides on your feet. On bottom, you got to have 4 or 5. Two things. You got to be master level, but obviously, have several things you can do. And on top, you got to work on 2 or 3 breakdowns, and you got to be able to ride somebody and hold them down and for the pinning combination. So I literally have things that I actually work on from a fundamental standpoint. Stance motion. We work on stance motion every practice. Who do you know wants to do stance motion for 10 minutes every practice? Nobody wants to do it. But why?
Right.
Why do you do it? You have to do it. Because it is the thing. Even in that, I see people with their elbows out, their head up, they're crossing their feet. I'm like, guys, fundamentals. Fundamentals are key. And I teach very simple, fundamentally executable things. That is, your head is up. Your head has to be below their head if you're going to take a shot. Elbows in, underhooks. You got to pull them, pop up, go to a low single. I have a very methodical way of being very consistent in the messaging of, yes, if you have something else that you want to work on, we'll work on that. But fundamentals wins, Coach. Right? And if you get your teams fundamentally sound, you will win a lot of matches.
Yes, sir. Okay, we're coming towards the end here. So I have 3 different wrestlers that I'm going to present to you, and you tell me kind of what you would say to them. First one, first-year wrestler, let's say it's a freshman that's never wrestled in his life. He's coming to wrestling practice for the first time. What do you say to him or her?
First off, I'd ask them what do they want out of it? What kind of goals they have? Write me down your goals of what you want to achieve, and then let's work towards it. That's very first. Secondly, have fun. Learn. You're in the learning position of this sport. Soak it all up. Get in there. Learn how to drill. We'll teach you the technique, and then you got to learn how to drill so that you can actually get good at that technique. If you have a good workout partner, things that we teach you today, you need to be finding time working on them and working on those. But the biggest thing is having fun. Again, I get so many young people here. One of the things that I find is that a lot of folks right now, they want to come out for something and they want to be master level within a day. The time from start to where they want to see themselves, they're not giving themselves enough time to understand that this is something you have to work towards. And you have to reframe what's successful. I tell a lot of young folks that just start, look, reframe. Like, Coach, I'm not getting any better. I was like, you're thinking not getting any better. I've seen a tremendous amount of progress in you. Oh, really, Coach? Yeah, how so? Boom, 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 boom. These are the 3 things you've done well in this last practice. So number 1, reevaluate what you're seeing as successful. Are you going to come out and you're going to win every match when you first start? No. Did you do the feet work and did you actually execute the move? That's a huge success, right? So it's framing how and what their team is successful, making sure that they have clear and concise goals of what they're wanting to get out of it, and let them know that this is wrestling is not a overnight success sport. This sport takes a long time it's a sub-all sport. Everything builds on each other. You got to build the foundation. Then you got to frame it, and then you got to put the roof on, and you got to put the floors in, and then you got to put the process, and it will not happen overnight. And as long as they understand that, and I would tell them to bring a positive attitude, willingness to learn, and being willing to work at what we teach them. And if they do that, they will over time be successful in the sport, but also try to have fun. We're out here trying to have fun here, right? I even tell my team, everyone else, the guys, let's make this fun, man. You got to enjoy the process, because the process of what we're doing in this sport, Coach, it's not an easy one. It's not an easy process to go from beginner to great wrestler. But it is a process that can be done if you got a great attitude, you got a great work ethic, and you're willing to get mentally tough.
So the second wrestler, it sounds like you'd probably give him the same advice. Let's say you have a kid that's been wrestling for a couple of years. Maybe he's just in there to get better for football, something like that. Wrestling isn't a sport, but he comes in and said, Coach, I really enjoyed how much success I had last year, and I really want to get better this year. What do I have to do?
Everything that I just told you about the first one, and I'll add a couple things. Go to as many summer camps as you can and get in as many matches from last season to this season that you possibly can. And I would put a goal, 50 to 60 live matches from February to when you start again in October that next year. That's where you're going to get better. Go and wrestle. Get extra experience. Go take technique. Get bigger. Get stronger. All right? But you're not going to, if the people that tell me they want to get better, but then they don't come to club and they don't show up for technique and they don't show up for freestyle, they don't show up for Greco-Roman, they don't do anything extra, they're not going to any summer tournaments, you have to put in the work if you're going to get better. And the guys that do that, the guys that put in the extra, guys and gals that put in the extra work, they go to the summer camps, they come to club, they go to the extra 10, 15 tournaments you need to get, 20 tournaments, which is an investment. Not everybody's able to do that. I understand that. But my oldest son, he's gotten 90 matches from January to right now. He's had 90 live matches in tournaments. That's what it takes. Not everybody can do that. I understand. But I would say to have a goal of 50 matches from when your season's over to when you start again, and you will get better. You would absolutely improve. Promise it.
All right, and then the last one will be a wrestler that's had a lot of success, maybe at the middle school level. Not like a state championship, but, good winning records, a good coachable kid, one that focuses on wrestling. And they come in that first day freshman year, and they say, Coach, what do I got to do to be a state champion before I graduate high school?
Yeah, the state champion formula is the previous two things I just told you, plus maybe one or two extra things. The person that says they want to improve, if you're coming from middle school into high school and you say you want to be a state champion, well, you've got to make sure that you understand that you've got to wrestle every summer and every opportunity that you possibly can and take on all comers and actually take on all opportunities to improve that you possibly can and get that 50, 60 matches in the off season in. You have to do that. Number one, go to as many camps as you can. And then I would tell you that, guys like Heath Gagne and some others, sometimes you need that extra added piece. And, Heath for 2 years was in the state finals, and he actually beat the kids in the regional championships. Was a regional championship. He met the same guy his sophomore, the same guys that were different, both in his sophomore and junior years, and he lost in the state finals to them. Guys that he'd beaten in the previous thing. And I sat in the hallway. He was destroyed after his junior year. He beat a two-time state champion, in the regional finals in overtime to win regions, and then he lost to him in the finals, just froze up. And he did that twice, and I was like, hey, Heath, I was like, look, let this burn into your heart, man. You need to let this sear into it, and that hurt needs to fire you up. And you got to do something different this next time around. You have to. You need to get bigger, stronger competition when you go seek it out. You need to train with better guys than you. And I was like, you need to get some mental mindset training through Z-Winning Mindset. And he did. He went and signed up for the course. And his parents, got that for him. And not every kid can afford that, and I understand that. But guys that really want it, that curriculum is there to help you get to the very top, the pinnacle. And I've seen it myself. The program works. I'm using it in the same program with my sons now. I've worked with wrestlers and football players who were in high school and now are playing college, or now are in college with it. So I would tell you that, number one, they need to make sure that they are seeking out the best competition training partners possible. Go to wherever club that might be. Extra 50, 60 matches every summer, off season has to be. Make sure that they actually nutritionally, physically stronger. You have to get stronger, make sure that you are in as tip-top shape as possible. All right. And the last thing is have a mental edge. If you don't have a program like Z-Winning Mindset, get a part of one or seek something like that out to help you mentally become the person you want to be and get through all the things that you want to get through. And all of those things doesn't necessarily ensure a state championship, but it certainly gives you the things needed to have this chance at one. At the end of the day, it's going to take them to work harder than they've ever had to working before and have the best mindset they've ever had and to actually believe that they can do it, as well as making sure that they have all of the mental experiences needed to actually have conquered them, to actually attach, to attack that goal, right? And I think all of that starts where we first started, and that's with goals. Sitting down and writing out your goals, finding the measurement, understanding what you got to do to get them correct, making sure that they have their why in place and their timetable, making sure that they have urgency to that goal. A lot of kids want to be great, and they'll lip serve it. They'll say, yes, I want to be great, but none of their actions show it. When I start seeing a kid's actions match what they're telling me they want to do and what their goals are saying they have to do to be one, then I'm like, okay, they're on their way to doing it. Doesn't still necessarily guarantee them one, but it gives them a fantastic shot at going after something and one of those great opportunities in life to grab a state title in their career. So that's what I would tell you, Coach.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It means a lot that you took time out of your day to do this. Good luck this year at the college level again. Hopefully Northern Guilford does well. Good luck to Greensboro College. I just heard so many great things from you today, and it sounds like that they definitely are blessed to have you. So any parting words for me or anybody listening?
Yeah, Coach, I would just tell you, number one, thank you for reaching out. It's my pleasure to do this today. And again, I think, I'm excited to, just by doing what you're doing here, I can tell you that I can definitely tell from the time we've talked that you care about your program and you care about your kids. To start talking to some people that, that can maybe help them, it's maybe part of, word of wisdom here and there, to do that, I think, and have them able to listen to that would be great. Something just is kind of lead, from success does not happen overnight. A lot of these things we work for, takes time. But I do want to just leave something. I'll leave something with you, and I'll leave something with your student athletes. Is that you don't have to have it all figured out to win. You don't have to have every single thing that we just talked about all lined up perfectly to win. Winning comes a lot from, I believe, a belief in yourself that you can actually do what it is you say you want to do. It means you got to work and you got to do all the intangible things that we talked about, but making sure that, number one, from the get, you got to believe that you can do something before you'll ever get there. So getting yourself in a place mentally that you can actually understand that the mental equation of this sport, there are so many great athletes out there. There's so many great people that have great technique and great skill and great strength and great quickness. But I'll tell you that if you actually, through all my years, I've been doing this for a long time, over 41 years I've been in the sport of wrestling, right? As an athlete, coach, mentor, just on a lot of different functions, places that I've been a part of the sport. And I tell you, when it comes down to these things, that is the difference maker. It is making sure that your mental approach is on cue and that you believe that you can do what it is you say you want to do. And I think our goal as a coach, as you know, is to help these young men and women to be not just great wrestlers, but to be great human beings, and to let them know that this is not about just winning a match. This is about learning, setting a goal, working towards a goal, having success at completing that equation, and then along the journey, making sure that you understand that you have a platform and you're blessed to doing that, and you're blessed to have that opportunity to reach that goal and be on that journey, and know in that time and space that being a great human being means giving to others, helping others, giving back to the sport. It's so great to hear Joel say, hey, I want to come back and give the sport. That's beautiful. That's what we need across this entire sport. And if everybody did that, just think of the impact that would be made in this sport if everybody gave back something to the sport that's given them so much. I would say that this sport is one of the greatest sports on this earth, I do believe. I mean, what it's given to me is really my entire life, and I'm so grateful and thankful for it. And, Coach, I welcome you and your team to come up to Greensboro College at any point in time. I'd love for you to, when we have some more matches, we'll invite your team up. When I see you, I look forward to having some more chats. And really, at the end of the day, we are one big family. And this is great people involved in this great sport of wrestling. And I wish you and your team. It's undoubtedly the very best, Coach.
Thank you very much. And yeah, we definitely want to be involved. I want to get the kids out. I want to introduce them to people. I had a couple kids up at your camp at Greensboro. They loved it. Obviously wish I would have brought more. I could only get 2 kids to come, but like you said, this is a process. Big visions for the future. I have a lot of confidence in the kids. Not so much in the fact that, we're going to win titles, but if I start getting these kids to believe in me and believe in this program, they're going to move on to great things. And I always tell them that if you are working hard and trying to improve yourself and putting in the work in the classroom and on the mat, things like that, the wins will come. Your hand will be raised, but you can't focus on that. You just got to continuously improve yourself, improve others around you, be a good teammate, get good grades, make good decisions whenever the coach isn't around, and the wins will come.
That's it. That sounds great. I wish you the best, and thank you so much for doing this for your student athletes.
Yep. Thank you, Coach. Have a wonderful day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.